The Minnesota Wind Chill are the reigning UFA champions, but they have never won a game here at beautiful TCO Stadium. Tonight for the fourth time, they'll try to get a victory. It will not be easy as the 6-0 Atlanta Hustle, arguably the 2025 championship favorite, is in town. Welcome, everybody, to the Pabst pregame show. Friday night Frisbee on a massive Week 6 in the Ultimate Frisbee Association. Hi, everybody. Evan Lepler. Great to bring Charlie Eisenhood out of the production bunker and back into the broadcast booth. Charlie, can't imagine a better game on the schedule than what we got tonight. And obviously the Hustle have a huge weekend. They're at Chicago tomorrow. This is one of 6 games on this Friday. And this is an interesting game for a lot of reasons. Are the Wind Chill capable of playing against one of the league's best, trying to back up their championship? How good are the Hustle? We're going to find the answers to a lot of those questions tonight.
Yeah, I'm back-to-back for the Hustle this weekend, Minnesota-Chicago. That's a tough test for any team. Coming into the Central Division, you know you're going to see a level of defense that maybe you're not accustomed to seeing. And we've seen teams over the years, great offenses come here and struggle. And I think it's a great test for both teams because obviously Minnesota has dominated the weaker teams in the Central so far, but struggled a lot against Chicago, especially early in the game. And I think with Minnesota, the questions are about their offense. For this Atlanta team, it's more about can they handle the resilient side of the game. And how about Justin Burnett warming up right now, playing against his former team tonight for the first time, and that's just a great subplot tonight.
No doubt about it. Certainly the Hustle haven't missed him that much through the first half of their season. No team in the league has been more impressive. They have been tested, and they have answered every test so far. Even when they were pushed to the brink against San Diego, Dean Ramsey at the buzzer has been a huge X factor for this Hustle squad.
And it feels like in the past, Atlanta has come up short in those spots over and over again. And you think back to the New York playoff game back in the Atlantic Division era. And for them to have those moments happen positively for them in the regular season is the kind of thing that can build confidence for you going into what has been kind of a treacherous postseason for them. They've never made a championship weekend, but this team looks better than ever. They're deeper, they're stronger, they have a more flexible offensive line, and I think that they're a really special unit this year.
Obviously some playoff demons to try and exercise. You think about what happened 2 years ago against the Austin Soul. That's a chance to win. Brett Halsmeyer fumbles it away at the end of overtime. And then in double OT, the Austin Soul get the victory on the road. I mean, looking back on it, it's still mind-boggling to think about all the crazy twists and turns in this game. No matter how well the Hustle play tonight or throughout the season, when we get to the playoffs, they're still going to have to deal with these demons when the time comes.
But I think playing these tough road games is a way to kind of build your team forward. And frankly, they've had the harder schedule so far this season, you know. They played Salt Lake. They've had a couple of games against a tough San Diego team. Of course, Carolina, who's struggling. That's an interesting start to the season after making the finals a year ago. And how about this Atlanta team, you know, finally with an opportunity, I think, to silence those doubts.
Well, they are a really strong, talented squad, certainly on offense, led by Brett Halsmeyer and Austin Taylor and Hayden Austin Knabb and Adam Miller coming off his best game. And they're going to be facing a Minnesota team tonight, Charlie, that really relies on their defense. As you mentioned earlier, 2 dominant wins over Indy and Pittsburgh, both on the road. The Chicago game a couple weeks ago, a lot of hype, and the Wind Chill really struggled. Miserable start in that game. They had a chance to break early, couldn't get it. Next thing they know, they're down 6-1, and they never really got back in it.
I think the good sign to take away from that is that although they did take that big early deficit, they then kind of played even with Chicago for the rest of the way. And this O-line has been a little hot and cold over the last couple of seasons. They have a lot of young playmakers. When they're hitting, they're fantastic. But the defense is never really in question. It's about their ability to show up on offense throughout the entire game, quarters 1 through 4. you look at this defense, though, 4th in breaks per game last year. They're sitting at number 1 so far this season. That's a little inflated because they've played some weaker opponents in the Central. But they forced the most turnovers from their opponents per game last year. They're number 2 on the list this year. So we know they're going to force turns against this Atlanta team. The question is, do they have the punch on the other side to pull out a win here in a stadium that has kind of been a horror show for them?
Well, you think about last year, they played a decent first half against New York here, and then the Empire totally ran away with it. Championship weekend here 2 years ago, a game that, let's be honest, Minnesota outplayed Salt Lake for the vast majority of the 4 quarters, but a miraculous Joel Clutton deflection. Elijah Jaime, by the way, who caught that goal, is here tonight as a member of the Atlanta Hustle, returning to the scene of that epic play. And the Wind Chill look to get their first win here at TCO Stadium tonight. This first game was at Seafoam Stadium, a place that's known for wind. Obviously, last year, a championship weekend, though, the Wind Chill thrived in the wind. It started against D.C. with a semifinal stunner, and then against the Flyers, they got off to the brilliant start. Now, they were underdogs, Charlie, in both these games, and yet they're the team that celebrated at the end of the weekend.
They were huge underdogs to the D.C. Breeze, the number 1 team in the league. And, yeah, Minnesota just they weren't afraid of playing in the really tough conditions. And that's what it's all about, playing in the Central. You're going to have those grindy games. They weren't afraid to go deal with that. Meanwhile, the D.C. offense wasn't happy to be playing in that wind. They haven't really looked great in the wind so far this season either. It is a little windy tonight, I will note. There is maybe 10 miles per hour of wind out on the field. I was talking to Ben Feldman, coach of the Wind Chill, before the game, and he did say that typically once the sun goes down, the wind pretty much goes to 0, so shouldn't be heavily affected, but we might see it play a role in the first half.
And the sun doesn't go down for a while here in Minnesota. I was playing pickleball at 9 p.m. local time last night. We still had some daylight. So it's going to be interesting. Tuba Benson-Jaja, the Hustle coach, was talking about how he wished they could turn the wind down a little bit. There's the goal from Brian Vinoka. What a standout multi-purpose player he has been, and felt appropriate that he had the disc in his hands as the final seconds disappeared. So many shocking storylines throughout the playoffs last year, but at the end it was Ben Feldman and the Wind Chill hoisting the 2024 UFA Championship Trophy out in Salt Lake City. And tonight they battle in the interdivisional landscape for the first time since then. Here's the champs, Empire, winning 3 of the previous 4. And the team that Atlanta has been competing most fiercely against in the South through all these years, the Flyers, the 21 champs, they are 0-4, Charlie. They've never missed the playoffs before. That is in jeopardy as they go to Philadelphia tomorrow. One of the many interesting games on the slate here in Week 6.
A critical game, and we've got D.C. Toronto right now. We've got Oakland and Colorado this weekend, a challenge game for Oakland on the road. But to zoom in on this 0-4 Flyers team, the thing that Atlanta's got going for them is that they basically control Carolina's destiny. If Atlanta goes and beats them in their 2 remaining matchups this season, it's very
both on the
unlikely.
Road, both at Carolina.
Both at Carolina. It's very unlikely that Carolina is going to even make the playoffs. So they don't have to deal with them in the playoffs. That's a huge opportunity because I don't think you want to let that team limp in as the 3 seed and eventually maybe have to see them in the title game in the South.
There certainly is something disorienting about seeing the Flyers tied for last in the South. And Atlanta has company at the top of the division. Yes, they've gotten 2 impressive wins, close games against the Growlers. They'll take on the Austin Soul on Friday Night Frisbee 4 weeks from tonight. Austin off this weekend. They go to California next weekend to play LA on Friday, and then San Diego on Saturday. Well, the opening coin toss is about ready to be underway, and we are getting ready for the opening pull here between the Wind Chill and the Hustle. First ever meeting between these franchises. If you're curious what Bevon thinks about this matchup, we had a chance to talk to him earlier. Here's Brian Vinoka and new member of the Wind Chill, James Pollard, talking about tonight's matchup here in Minnesota.
Brian Vinoca, Minnesota Wind Chill. This will be my 9th season playing Wind Chill. I think it's going to be an interesting clash of styles. Like, Atlanta really is very handler driven, and they want to keep possession as much as possible while looking for their cutters to take advantageous space. Oftentimes, we are trying to generally make it difficult and just kind of sag lanes, a lot of times provide junky looks, something that's not as consistent. It's just, again, single person defense, but it'll be interesting to see when they take shots downfield. Can we apply pressure? Can we get turnovers? I think we can, but I'm excited to see how that plays out. We're watching the film. A little bit of their double teaming comes from like the far weak side handler. I was watching some film not too long ago, and they got Salt Lake on it a couple times. I like our offensive matchups. I like our ability to win one-on-one in space. Yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out. Adding in Justin and James has been tremendously impactful. Our defensive line conversion this year has been a lot higher than it was last year. Conversely, our O-line percentage has taken a little bit of a hit. So we need to get back to, again, working through our guys, developing that chemistry, and really just kind of getting back into the flow. If we cut selflessly, if we run the systems, we'll be in a good spot.
James Pollard, Minnesota Wind Chill. I think Atlanta hustle. I think we can force them to throw a lot of throws. That's our go-to. So that's really the big thing. If we can make points last really long, that's a win for us. They're big. They're fast. Really looking forward to that matchup. But, I mean, we're one of the few teams I think that matches them athletically with our height and our speed. So it's going to be fun. Definitely looking for a lot of jump balls because we know they like to throw it deep. So Final Four. Said it before. I think this is Atlanta's year to go. So Atlanta out west. Ooh. I'm like in Oakland right now. I think I said Salt Lake before, but I think Oakland's gonna end up doing it. So Central, obviously, Minnesota, obviously. East. Oh my God. I still think Boston.
On the green stage, huge bid, gets the touch. Great opportunity for the Germans, and they break with ease. Throw it the full 80 yards to the field. Are you kidding me? And an incredible catch. You are kidding me. Oh my God! Throw like a pro with the new Pro Ultimate Frisbee. Created with input from the sport's premier passers, the Pro Frisbee is specially designed to fly through the wind and maintain its edge. Experience the official Frisbee of the UFA and get yours at shopufa.com today. Tonight in Minnesota, Friday Night Frisbee delivers an unprecedented interdivisional showcase. The Minnesota Wind Chill are the reigning UFA champions, but they still face questions about how they match up against the league's very best. And the Atlanta Hustle have delivered a sensational first 6 games to their 2025 season, but now they face perhaps their toughest test yet. So off we go into week 6 of the UFA journey. It's the Wind Chill and the Hustle coming up next on Friday Night Frisbee. It's always great to come to the Twin Cities and watch Ultimate Frisbee from TCO Stadium in Eagan. Carl Eckwurzel and the Atlanta Hustle are here in the Twin Cities for the first time. They've been the most impressive team in the league with their old teammate Justin Burnett. Hopes to get them tonight. Will Brandt, the championship weekend MVP, trying to show these guys from Georgia what it means to be a champion. The Hustle are still looking for their first ever appearance at championship weekend. The Windchill have been at the Final Four each of the past 2 years, and they won it all a season ago. And with that, we say good evening and welcome to TCO Stadium, everybody. Free Friday Frisbee. What a matchup to wrap up the month of May with Charlie Eisenhood, the czar of Ulti-World. I'm Evan Lepler. And Charlie, no team has been better through the first month plus of the season than the Atlanta Hustle. The Minnesota Windchill, high variance squad. How do they play their best tonight to really challenge the Hustle on their home field?
Well, I think you're going to need to see a big game from Will Brandt. I think he's up to the task. We'll talk a little bit more about him. And really, I think it comes down to the defensive line. Can they force turnovers the same way that they have been able to against even great offenses over the last couple of seasons? Atlanta's gotten used to really just being able to run at a super high level. I mean, it's one of the best offenses we've seen in the UFA in like the last 5 years. Yeah. And they haven't played a lot of Central Division teams. So they're going to have to go up against what has been one of the best defenses in the league for 2 years running.
And things are different in the Central Division. We'll see if Minnesota can teach the Hustle a little bit about that tonight. Brett Holzmeyer is the anchor of this Atlanta offense that is on a record pace right now. They are averaging fewer turnovers per game than any team in the history of the league, and there are a lot of reasons why this Hustle offense is so good, but Holzmeyer is the dominant force of the unit.
Brett Holzmeyer averaging more than 3 assists per game plus a pair of goals. And you don't think of him necessarily when you first consider him as an assist thrower, but that's how versatile his game has become. He's also going to cross over on the D points and get you blocks. I mean, he is just maybe the best all-around player in the league right now, and averaging just over 1 turn a game. He's 3rd in receiving yards in the UFA right now. He's 2nd in plus-minus. He can do it all. I mean, he can go downfield and give you a bailout at the end of a quarter, but he can also operate as a handler and throw scores. And there's just not a lot of players like that in the UFA.
Hustle have 4 guys on their O-line, all in the top 10 in the league in assists, one of them being Brett Holzmeyer. Minnesota is a team that relies on its defense. We know they're going to create chaos. The offense for the Windchill is the question mark, but they do have the championship weekend MVP, Will Brandt. He's just 23, former D3 national champion. Can he be the anchor and quarterback to lead this team back to another championship weekend?
I do think so, yes. I mean, he is an incredibly skilled player. 2024 Donovan Award winner, best player in Division III. It wasn't all that close, and he has immediately leveled up his game in the UFA. And he just really doesn't turn it over very much considering the kind of volume that he has to take and the difficult throws that he has to make. And you can see in these highlights that, he's breaking the mark. He's throwing hammers. He's throwing deep shots. And, he does all that while averaging well under a turn per game. So Will Brandt absolutely can be the guy. The rest of the team on that O-line is going to have to step up around him if they want to beat this Atlanta Hustle.
Well, Will Brandt, the anchor of the offense, feels kind of appropriate, though. It's the D-line that's currently being introduced right now for the Windchill here at TCO Stadium. Will Brandt, I mean, he's just 23 years old, but he already feels a little bit like a UFA veteran. Today's his 42nd career game. He's already got over 100 assists. There's Dylan DeClerc, one of the leaders of the D-line. 2 blocks away from moving into the 11th position all-time in blocks. He could be in the top 10 by the end of June. Let's talk keys to the game tonight, Charlie. Most important thing for each team to get a victory this evening here at TCO Stadium.
Well, yeah, for Minnesota, I think it's about dictating the pace of the game. They need to make this their home turf. They can't let Atlanta just get into their motions, hit their deep shots. You know, they like to play with a lot of flow. They got to get this game down into the mud. And I think one way they can do that is with the size that they have on their D-line. And in fact, they're making some D-line changes to upgrade the size to match up with all of the great receivers on this Atlanta offense. If the ball hangs up in the air, I think you're going to see opportunities for the Wind Chill to get blocks. It is hard to match up with this Atlanta team from an athleticism perspective. They might be one of the best teams in the league to do that. For Atlanta, they can't play down. You can't get into it. You got to just play smooth. And if they can jump out to an early lead, we saw how Chicago was able to get right through it. And we are going to take a quick break. We'll be back for the start of this one.
Ready to meet the latest addition to the family? The money you saved us with auto owners helped make it all possible. It really is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Excuse me?
Third best thing. Third best thing.
Auto Owners offers discounts for life, home, car, and business insurance because they think the more you protect, the more you should save. That's simple human sense.
The Ultimate Frisbee Association is presented by Pabst Light, America's quality light beer. The UFA is also proud partners with True Leave, dedicated to enhancing lives through cannabis. Partnering with Two Town Cider House, high quality ingredients, no shortcuts, bringing hard cider back to the people. And with Victory Insoles, engineered for peak performance, energy, and recovery. It is an absolutely perfect Friday night for Frisbee. And the Wind Chill have a raucous hometown crowd here at TCO Stadium. This practice facility for the Minnesota Vikings hosted UFA's championship weekend in 2023. Minnesota Wind Chill have played 3 games here in this facility. They have never won. Will tonight be the night? Opening pull is presented by Pabst Light. James Pollard lets it rip, and here's this record-breaking Atlanta offense playing in a facility they've never been in before with a slightly different wind against an opponent that they also are seeing for the first time. But Austin Taylor, Adam Miller, Hayden Austin-Knabb, and Brett Holzmeyer are the four-headed monster that Minnesota's defense is going to have to deal with. Charlie, as you look at the matchups you're seeing, Cameron Brock catching the under. What's standing out to you in the opening point?
Well, trying to get that pressure on the reset space right away. I think they're going to be looking for those opportunities to double Austin Taylor like we just saw right there. Methodical pace for the Atlanta offense to start.
Shooting it for Holzmeyer, and the wind swats it down. Hayden Austin-Knabb with the game's first turn.
Yeah, the floor fell out from under that huck. It's not a bad shot with no wind, but that tailwind sending that one into the turf.
Hucks are certainly different depending on which direction you're throwing. And now the Minnesota D-line working downfield. Former Hustle standout Justin Burnett. Cam Lacey's going deep. The throw goes up. It's picture perfect. 8 yards still to go. Lacey with a stall count rising. He did not get it off. It's a 7-second stall violation and a huge early missed opportunity for Minnesota.
Painful mistake. This wind chill team is number 2 in the league in the red zone. Got to find a reset there. And a sigh of relief for Atlanta.
Cameron Brock, perhaps more familiar than any other member of this hustle squad with Minnesota's personnel, having played the first dozen years of his career with the Indy AlleyCats. That's a block for Cam Lacey coming under on Holzmeyer. There's no whistle.
I think Holzmeyer believes he had that caught and it was knocked out of his hands, and now they're going to give him the call. Super late whistle for Holzmeyer, and it looked like a clean block when we saw it in real time.
Need to take another look. Certainly not the smoothest of offensive possessions for Atlanta. But still just one official turnover. Nearly a quarter of the quarter already off the clock. Holzmeyer floats it, a wobbler for Miller, who gives it right back to the big man. Holzmeyer, nearly 3 minutes in, scores the game's opening goal.
So that's the downwind direction for Atlanta, scoring in that left-hand end zone. And watch this huck. I mean, it just gets absolutely blasted by the wind into the ground. Then a beautiful upwind shot in the other direction.
Yeah, Vandy Mortel floated it beautifully for Lacey, but he didn't have a sense of urgency with the disc.
Well, I think he thought he was going to have a quick shot into the end zone and didn't turn to the reset quickly enough. So here this is one more time. And
I don't know if that was a foul, Charlie.
I don't think it was. I mean, clearly Holzmeyer got his hands on it, but he was a little casual catching that disc, and I think it may have been dislodged before he had stopped rotation. But ultimately, Atlanta on the board. That's a win for the Minnesota defense, though, to start this game.
It is, and yet they should have scored.
It's true.
And just like the Chicago game, a break chance on the opening point, they're unable to – I mean, if they score that, they get their next D-line out there, and they're putting the pressure on the hustle.
It's great transition defense there, kind of in the run-and-gun situation after the huck, to shut all the options down and force a stall. This Atlanta team – only allows 3 breaks per game.
Some contact downfield, and the whistle goes against Atlanta's Tyler Randall. Brian Vanoka, veteran captain of this Minnesota team, floats it toward Brandt just shy of the goal line. He was bumped from behind. What do we got? Doesn't look like the referees have called a foul. This is going to be Atlanta's disc. That looked like a foul to me.
Well, I mean, if Holzmeyer's going to get the call, then I think you got to give Brandt the call there.
Strange start to this game. Opening break chance for the hustle. Coleman Tapero to Frankie Fernandez. Matt Rader on the mark. Low throw intended for Sinjins. It's a turnover for Tapero. So both teams unable to convert their opening break chance. Brandt picks up his old college teammate Gordon Larson. And into the end zone for Paul Krennic.
Both teams get a turn. Neither able to capitalize. Let's take another look at this one. And Will Brandt, he's got plenty of space here. And, I mean, he does drop the disc, but
I thought he was
there was some
bumped from
contact
behind
as he was going up to make the play. And you just have to blow that whistle. And then just like a nice little move across the front of the end zone.
One thing about this Minnesota offense, they've turned the car keys basically over to the young guys. Yes, they still have Vanoka and Rader, veteran presences out there, Klain too. But it's Krennic, it's Larson, and it's Brandt that are orchestrating that unit.
And it's a lot of firepower Some under 24 national team representatives for the United States.
The big four, as you could call them, for Atlanta. Taylor, Austin, Nab, Miller, and Holzmeyer out there. Brock is out there again. And it's the first O point for both Alec Wilson-Holiday and Sean Cannell, who was a member of that Salt Lake Shred team that played here at TCO Championship Weekend 2 years ago. Last Friday in Salt Lake City, we certainly saw some chaos. Oh my, that throw looked like it was intended for Holzmeyer, but it gets to Cannell. He shoots it deep. Alec Wilson-Holiday is wide open. James Pollard caught napping or poaching. Either way, 2-1 Atlanta.
Fortunate for the Hustle. Best throw from Cam Brock was not on target, but it sneaks through, and then it's jailbreak as Wilson-Holiday, who doesn't have a turnover this season, gets into the end zone for the score. And both Brock and Wilson-Holiday, such nice additions to this team. They're not the superstar. I mean, Brock was, of course, a legend in Indianapolis. But he doesn't have to be the A1 guy anymore, and it just means that there's a little bit more fluidity to the offense because he's still a tremendously talented offensive cutter.
15th goal of the year for the former Dallas Legion striker, Alec Wilson-Holiday. That's a low blading throw. It never had a chance. Brandt's first turnover, and the best field position for the Hustle D-line on a break chance.
Turnovers like that are what lost them the game against Chicago when they only scored 11 goals.
McClamrock hammer to the end zone, deflected and caught. Kobira has the Hustle break.
Well, you just lob it up there and let your guys make a play, and sometimes it works out. You see this flick from Brandt, just not the right shape, especially throwing downwind. And out of the double team, not a lot of options besides putting it up to the end zone. And ultimately, the defenders weren't in a great position to make a play. They were both running with their backs to the disc. And it bounces for Kobira.
Yeah, surprising that Dean Ramsey didn't just make the catch clean because he's been Mr. Buzzer Beater so far this season.
And he got two hands on it, too. So the first upwind break goes to the Hustle. And that turnover in that sequence is not what you want to see if you're on the Wind Chill coaching staff.
And it was not a long point, but Ben Feldman still choosing to put his D-line out there. Tristan Vandy Mortel has played a lot of offense during his time. Stall count got to be high. He gets it over to Lacey. Colin Berry, who's also played a lot of offense, but switching onto the D-line tonight for Minnesota. Here's Pollard, former member of the Philly Phoenix. Another marquee addition for the Minnesota Wind Chill in the offseason. Berry shoots it, looking to Clerk's way. Testing Ramsey. And great position from DeClerc on the underthrown disc. And it's Matt Rader in the end zone.
Wow. Risky pass. Brett Holzmeyer was right in that lane, and I think if he left his feet, he would have made a play. But Rader hauls in the goal. Kind of a trust huck here from the Wind Chill. Berry's shot hangs up into the wind, but
little push off there from DeClerc. He got away with it.
But he was already in position, and Holzmeyer doesn't pull the trigger. Chance to flip the break now for the Wind Chill.
One thing to watch throughout the game, Minnesota has gained a reputation for having the best pulls in the league. And a big part of that is Cam Lacey. And look how he blades this disc, spins it out the back. Atlanta's retrieving one of the extra Frisbees, but by the time they do, the pressure's in the end zone, and all of a sudden, Atlanta needs to work it out of Callahan country. Nobody in the league pulls it better right now than the young Minnesota D-liner Cam Lacey. Earned all UFA defensive honors last year in large part because of the impact he made as a puller. Here's Austin Taylor, as steady as any center handler in the league. Badgered in the backfield by Vandy Mortel, so Holzmeyer finds Miller, and now back to Taylor, who rips it downfield. Austin nabbed, denied by Burnett. Hayden wants a call. He's not going to get one.
I don't think he deserves it either. That's good defense from Burnett. The contact came after the play.
Lacey shooting it long. Adam Miller there defensively, and it was a slight misread for Minnesota's Noah Hansen. So another wind chill break chance goes awry. They're getting opportunities.
Absolutely, and they're setting flat, fairly wide marks, especially early in the stall count, to take away the kind of downfield windows and the hucks, and then as the stall count rises, they're tightening up to put more pressure on the resets, and it's working really well. This is the most disjointed we've seen this Atlanta Hustle offense this season.
Lefty backhand, it was low, but Wilson Holiday digs it out on the throw from Eckwurzel. Taylor shooting again. Eckwurzel in the end zone, unable to make the play. The disc wobbled, perhaps with the wind affecting it, and Carl could not haul it in.
Well, Noah Hansen looked like he felt like Eckwurzel fouled him. Eckwurzel also looking for a call. Ultimately, that's just a drop.
Timeout, Minnesota. A point that's already taken, 2 minutes and 16 seconds off the clock. And the wind chill will get their O-line on the field, going downwind, looking for the equalizer.
Already 3 turnovers for Atlanta. And a chance here to level this game back up. I mean, obviously, if you're Minnesota, you want to punch in that first break chance on the game's opening point. But from a game plan perspective, this is exactly what they're looking for. You want to shoot it at Justin Burnett? Okay, that's fine. You want to throw hangers? We'll take that. Unfortunately for the wind chill, they have not been able to capitalize. A couple of deep shots, just sitting up in that upwind direction, and Eckwurzel was there to make a play and just couldn't squeeze it. And it shows you how tricky the wind is right now. The disc is popping around. You can't make a clean catch.
Atlanta just 1 for 4 on their huck so far, and they lead the league in huck completion percentage coming into tonight. Krennic gets it downfield for Savell Fernandez. Here's Brandt to Larson. Klain gets free from McClamrock and shoots it deep. A couple targets in the area. This is a jump ball in the end zone, and it's well read for the Minnesota score. Quinn Snyder able to bring it in to tie the game.
Great body positioning downfield from the wind chill so far in this game. Snyder holding position, kind of anticipates that this might float, and then is able to go and doesn't even have to lay out, able to just run it out and put a break on the board, tie this game at 3 apiece.
Let's be honest, Charlie. The hucks for both teams have been a little wobbly. Like the 2 Minnesota huck completions are DeClercq down to our left, where he just read it better on the underthrow, and then that prayer for Snyder. Nothing caught in stride so far.
I think Minnesota's happy to have an exchange of turnover type game.
Another great pull.
Brilliant upwind. And completely out of rhythm to start this possession.
Ryan Flick, just before the game was activated, he's kind of in the Christian Olsen spot. That's a dangerous opportunity. It's a Callahan. James Pollard rips it down for Minnesota. First lead of the night for the wind chill.
Big game James. An easy Callahan, one of the easiest you will see at this level.
And it all started with the pull.
The puller should get a credit for the block. because back-to-back brilliant pulls. This is just a too casual release. Hang it up into the air. Pollard, so good going up one-on-one and just takes it away as the Wind Chill take the lead. Unbelievable. And this is where the hustle, we talked with head coach Tuba Benson-Jaja a bunch before this game, and he said, we've been working on our resilience. We're a more mentally strong team this year. Well, that work's going to have to pay off right now.
Another perfect pull that landed about a foot shy of the back line, and Miller 100 yards away from the other end zone. Could we have two Callahans in a row? No, he's just going to chuck it out of trouble, and it's Justin Burnett winning the matchup with Austin Knabb once again.
Second block for Burnett against his former team.
Penny Mortel picks up, guarded by Brock, over to Hansen. 3 straight goals for Atlanta. They're trying to make it 4 in a row. For 3 straight goals for Minnesota, I should have said, obviously, and that's the second time that the Minnesota D-line has been stalled on a break chance.
It's been solid O-line defense from the hustle. But with 6 turnovers already, they're coming up on their per-game average, and we're not even out of the first quarter.
Averaging just over 11 per game. They're more than halfway there. Holzmeyer and Taylor working in the backfield. Under a minute to play in the first. Hayden Austin Knabb. Forced backhand towards the middle by Burnett. Holzmeyer keeps it rolling to Miller. Miller through the Callahan last point.
It's been a forced middle pretty much all game long for the Wind Chill. Trying to funnel everything back into the teeth of the defense.
You think the hustle are trying to score the last goal of the quarter here? That's going to be a foul on the mark. And Brock will have it on the doorstep. Clock stops with 17 seconds remaining.
Yeah, they've specifically been working on trying to milk clock.
Well, Cameron Brock doesn't want to wait any longer. It's 2 of Atlanta's newcomers collaborating for the score. 15 seconds left in a 4-4 game.
Another great play from Burnett, one-on-one downfield, but doesn't dial up the precision on the swing pass. They give it back to the hustle. And after the foul, Cam Brock just has a little push pass into the end zone for Wilson Holiday. But these initial possessions for the Atlanta offense have been ugly. And that is in large part due to the pulls that have not let them get any rhythm at all.
Well, Dean Ramsey with a pull. Nothing compared to a Cam Lacey pull. Final seconds of the quarter for Minnesota and a drop at midfield. This could be a disaster as Klain lost it. 3 seconds, McClamrock looks and fires. 2 versus 3, and it's Will Brandt there to knock it down and preserve the tie game at the end of 1. Some bodies slow to get up in the end zone. Holzmeyer finally pulls up and gets to his feet. Missed opportunity for Minnesota, but Brandt nullifies the damage.
Well, I think Wind Chill have to be happy with how this game has gone so far. They're tied. They're up a break. They're getting the disc to start the second quarter. And they have Atlanta all out of sorts here in the Twin Cities.
Feels like it's going to be an interesting night here at TCO Stadium on Friday night Frisbee. 1 down, 3 to go. A 4-4 game here between the Hustle and the Wind Chill.
Hello, Wind Chill fans. If you're looking to buy your next home or sell the home you're already in, you can trust Realty Guy to help you navigate this treacherous housing market. Bitten by a radioactive housefly in 1993, mild-mannered realtor Brent Johnson became Realty Guy, your real estate super agent. Brent Johnson, Realty Guy with Keller Williams Realty, teamrealtyguy.com.
Let's make sure your customers' data isn't on the menu. FR Secure, security experts on a mission. Learn how to protect your business at frsecure.com.
Hey, did you hear about the new $5 Mega Millions Lotto game? It has a built-in multiplier, so non-jackpot prizes are automatically increased.
Really? By how much?
Could be 2 times, 4 times, 5 times, up to 10 times. Plus, jackpots start at $50 million and grow faster than ever. This is really big.
Mega big.
Multiply your excitement with the new Mega Millions game from the Minnesota Lottery.
Every time.
Every time?
Every time.
It's a 6-game Friday night and a 13-game 3-day weekend in the UFA. You can't miss Atlanta's second game of their Midwest road trip. They head to Chicago, 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. That's the UFA game of the week exclusively on WatchUFA.tv. And then next Friday, the old classic East Division showdown. But two teams reeling a little bit, the New York Empire and the DC Breeze. DC currently up 14-13 in the third quarter on WatchUFA.tv against Toronto. Here at TCO Stadium, we're tied after 1. Minnesota certainly flexing its defensive muscle and connecting on some hucks. Bevon shoots that one and finds Krennic. Work still to be done on the possession. Snyder resets for Larson. And then, was he in bounds? Yes, he was. Second score of the night for Snyder.
Well, that's great offensive possession for Minnesota. Smoothly going downwind and beating the hustle at their own game with the deep shot. Quinn Snyder getting his second goal. But part of the story tonight, Evan, is that the additions for this Minnesota team have been a huge impact players. The Callahan from James Pollard and a pair of blocks from Justin Burnett.
Not sure if he got the disc on that first one, but he got credited for the block. This one, there was no doubt.
And Burnett is leading the team in plus minus despite playing almost exclusively on the D-line.
He's an Atlanta kid, born and bred, quit baseball in 7th grade, started playing Ultimate. You know, a YCC Youth Club national champion with the ATLians, coached by, I believe, Michael Fairley, who's an impact defensive guy that the Hustle don't have tonight. I think they're expecting to get Fairley back for the Chicago game tomorrow. No Brett Holzmeyer tomorrow night, though, for Atlanta. Hustle are 6-0. They've won their last 15 regular season games in the UFA, and that's a stall on Cam Brock.
Knew it was coming. He'd been holding the disc for a long time.
It's been a while since we've seen 3 stalls in the first 14 minutes of a game. I think that's about the downfield defense or just guys feeling too comfortable holding the disc?
I think it's more about the defense. I mean, Brock was looking for a reset for about 4 seconds there.
Barry takes the shot, and it's easily knocked down by Eckwurzel.
Both teams getting a little greedy, going in that upwind direction. Well, they're ISO Holzmeyer here, but he can't get open.
I got Max Hanscom I make it Blake Krapful's on him downfield. Contact call, free 10 yards for Austin Knabb. Here's Holzmeyer. Eckwurzel, you may notice he throws with both hands over the course of the game. More good reset defense from Minnesota. DeClercq denied Austin Taylor initially. Brett Holzmeyer had to come get involved from the front of the stack. I think we can say definitively that Minnesota's defense has changed the way Atlanta has attacked. They have flustered the hustle in various ways, and Atlanta, even though they're right in this game, they don't look as comfortable as they often have on offense through the first 5 weeks of the season. Scuba to the end zone. Oh, what a catch by Miller with Krapful an inch away from getting the block.
Little taunt after the play. Adam Miller's been such a nice addition to this offensive line. Coming out of the University of Georgia, another U24 national team guy. As we see the toe the line there for Holzmeyer, but not enough on the huck in the upwind direction. Honestly, a win for the Minnesota defense once again, forcing out of the double team a late stall Scuba up into the air, but a nice play from Miller.
And a nice high stall count find from Austin Taylor through the double team.
Absolutely. Did the right thing. You know, you got to turn away from the reset when it's not there and look back downfield and try to give yourself something.
5-all. Just over 3 minutes gone here in the second quarter. Hustle showing a little bit of a defensive look. Mike Kobira playing the rabbit role right now, just running around. Here's Vinoka. Klain keeps it moving. Savell Fernandez over to Larson. Savell Fernandez, another underrated glue guy type piece, young player out of Middlebury, who's really been solid ever since he joined this Wind Chill squad last year. Larson back to Savell Fernandez. Calmly throws a strike to Klain's chest. See if Atlanta stays in this defense all the way to the end of the possession. Brandt on the doorstep. And finally a lane opens up, and it's the third goal of the half for Quinn Snyder.
It's hard to keep playing that zony look all the way in the end zone set. There's just too much space on the UFA field, and defenders getting caught disc watching, and it makes it an easy little pitch into the end zone for Brandt. Nice patience here from the Wind Chill.
No doubt.
I got to say, it's still early in this game, but it's starting to put to bed any idea that the Wind Chill aren't an elite team. But I think when they lost to Chicago, you start to worry. Maybe they don't have it. Maybe their offense just isn't going to be good enough. And all while they've certainly not been perfect tonight, they have shown that they can play some really smooth offensive possessions, and certainly their D-line is getting the job done against the league's #1 offense.
Well, this pull got caught by the wind.
But it's not a terrible result, because it's still a dead disc situation for the Wind Chill defense.
Ryan Flick picks up, hits a sliding Miller. Flick kind of taking the Christian Olsen role, as I mentioned. Olsen is here, but he broke a bone in his hand a few weeks ago against Carolina. He's hopeful to maybe come back in the Hustle lineup when they go to Carolina next week, if not perhaps the game after that. Here's Wilson Holiday to Holzmeyer. Here's Flick going with a backhand, and that's a beauty. Wilson Holiday with his third score of the half, matching Snyder.
Yeah, he didn't just finish that point. he had his fingerprints all over it. Really nice play from Wilson Holiday in the cutting lanes. And this is probably the best O point we've seen from the Hustle so far. Maybe starting to adjust a little bit to what they need to do against this Minnesota team. The Hucks have not really been there, so they're starting to work a little more through the unders.
First assist of the season for Ryan Flick. He's playing in his 5th game out of the Hustle 7 so far. It's pretty amazing, Charlie, that tomorrow night Atlanta's going to be 2/3 of the way through its season, playing their 8th game against a Chicago team that is 1-0. They'll be playing their 2nd game of the season. Things are going to pick up pretty quick for the Union.
Yeah, they're running out of weeks.
They got 4 doubleheader weekends late in the season.
It's tough.
Larson lets it rip. It's hanging up there. And in the end zone, it's Elijah Jaime. He made the catch. And we get a foul called against Minnesota at the end of this play. So it's going to be a free 10 yards for the Hustle after the interception.
Just the contact.
No, beg your pardon. They're calling it against Atlanta.
Wow.
So Snyder has the disc on the goal line and then throws the score. We need to take a couple more looks at that. Referees.
Obviously, it wasn't at the point of the catch because there was no contact being made by the Hustle defender. So are they calling an illegal box out? That's the only thing I could imagine they're calling in that spot.
A foul in pursuit of it. Tuba
Benson
Jaja having a word.
Very upset with the call, and understandably so. So let's watch here. A big pileup on a hanger. So a little bit of body contact right there. And
you see the official's hand go up there early.
I guess they're saying that initial bump constitutes a receiving foul. I'm not sure that I agree with the call by the letter of the law. Yes, that is contact. Whether that rises to the level of affecting the play, I'm really not convinced.
Double team for the wind chill defense. Holzmeyer gets it to Taylor. Double team stays with him. It's a big double team from Kratful and Hanscom. Brock waits for it. James Pollard and Cameron Brock have been on UFA panels together at championship weekend, talking pregame and postgame. Now they're guarding each other here on Friday Night Frisbee. Pollard sets the mark on the league's all-time goal-scoring king. Cameron Brock, 1 assist, no goals so far tonight. He begins this game with 655 goals. And we got a pick downfield.
Minnesota's looking to double Austin Taylor as often as they can. And they're also coming into the reset space when Taylor is cutting for the reset and just peeling off of another reset, maybe in the stack or on the weak side. And it hasn't really yielded direct turnovers, but I think it's making things a little more gummed up for this Atlanta offense.
It's also, I think, a point of respect in recognizing how valuable Taylor is when he only has 1 mark on him. And he has shown he can pick apart a defense. So Minnesota's basically saying they want someone other than Taylor to beat them with their throws. Like Cameron Brock. Finds Knoll, and the pass to Knoll was a defensive breakdown for Minnesota. Eckwurzel ties it up 7-0.
Well, at the end of that possession, Taylor cleared out of the backfield and went into the stack and basically stayed out of the play. And I think Atlanta might want to do a little bit more of that because they're keying in on him so much. They have the handlers on this O-line to navigate this defense without him constantly getting the resets. And I was talking to Benson Jaja before the game, and he said that in the past they didn't really have that option because when he would go downfield, all of a sudden their offense would stall out because they didn't have somebody back there as kind of a pure handler. But with Adam Miller on the line now, I think they have the pieces, and it's kind of bogging down their offense to have him back there because they keep challenging him with double teams.
Might have just been Atlanta's best pull of the night. Vinoka coming under with Jaime on him. To the middle of the field for Savel Fernandez. Raider bluffs the big backhand. Matt Rader's an interesting fit on this team. He has been since he joined, and he was supposed to play with a wind chill the 2020 season. He had came to a couple practices, and then the season got down because of the pandemic. They like the fact that he adds just a competitive fire and a winning mentality. And he's been playing at a high level for a really long time. He's got a lot of miles on him, but he's still only 33. Matt Rader will turn 34 in July, and he adds a different flavor to this Minnesota offense.
He's getting old. He needs a rest after the point there, Evan. Taking a sit on the step. But
if 33 is old, I'm afraid of what they'd say about me and you.
Yeah, he's just such a savvy player. Obviously incredibly skilled, but at this point, having played for so many years, I mean, started his high-level Ultimate career when he was a teenager.
Yeah, he was like 16.
Yeah.
Playing with the best club teams in Seattle.
And that means that he just has that feel for the timing of the game, knows exactly when to start the cut. See him get a ton of separation on that end zone cut.
Yeah,
I think it's also nice to have a really savvy veteran on your team when a lot of your offensive unit is under the age of 25.
Here comes the hustle offense, trailing by 1. They're just 1 for 5 on their hucks. Atlanta has 7 goals and 7 turnovers here with less than 3 minutes to play in the half. And that's a drop from Holzmeyer.
Zippy pass from Taylor, but Holzmeyer's got to make that play. Winchell can take their largest lead of the game.
Rhett Bergmeyer, talented handler, floats it downfield, and Knoll comes in for the block, and Knoll is hurt. Sean Knoll has been such a game-changing presence coming to the hustle, and he makes the big play and gets shaken up in the process.
And it's a great play, and comes down hard and immediately going to that shoulder that he landed on when he came to the turf. And you hope it's just a stinger, but he looked like he was in a lot of pain.
Sean Knoll played 3 seasons for the Salt Lake Shred. It was a really valuable piece. I mean, 40 games, 59 goals, 95 assists. He showed the dynamicism a little bit, but the landing there on that right shoulder certainly stung. His old Salt Lake teammate, Elijah Jaime, right there, was the first to express the concern and kind of recognize what was happening.
I mean, it could be a lot of different things. It could just be a stinger. He could have dislocated his shoulder. He might be able to get it pop back in and be able to play through it. But, of course, you know, there are worse things. And he's clearly in a lot of pain.
Well, last time Sean Knoll was on this field, he was dealing with the remnants of a head injury. And he tried to play the final, and I think in retrospect, the Shred wished they hadn't tried to put him in that Empire game because a couple early drops from Knoll were part of the story of the Shred falling out of that game and not really being competitive against the Empire as they won their 3rd championship here at TCO Stadium a couple years ago. And I've said this before, but on Salt Lake, Knoll was like the old man on the team. But this is a veteran hustle squad, and he's like right in the middle of the pack. And I mean, he didn't mean this disrespectfully when he said playing with the Shred, it was like playing with a bunch of boys. Here in Atlanta, it's playing with a bunch of men, because these guys have just all been around. There are a lot of guys in their 30s, and that's part of the story of this Atlanta team this season. Their time seemingly is now. They're 6-0. They're down by 1. And Austin Knabb wants it all, and Adam Miller accelerates into the end zone. So one throw after the Knoll block. It's Hayden Austin Knabb to Adam Miller. 8-all.
Great shot, great speed from Miller. But losing Knoll for the rest of this game would be tough for this Hustle offense. I mean, he's one of 5 players that's played every O point so far for Atlanta. Nice safe sliding grab from Miller.
He was the quarterback of the D-line in past years. And I asked Tuba Benson-Jaja if it's surprised him at all how seamlessly he's fit in on offense, because he really has been magical through the first half of the season for Atlanta. And he said no, he wasn't surprised at all. And he really talked about Austin Taylor kind of welcoming Miller onto the offense, making room for him, not being threatened by him. We got a Hustle timeout here. Atlanta hasn't taken a timeout yet, so they'll talk about it here. End of quarter situations are something that the Hustle have owned through the first part of the season. And Dean Ramsey in end of quarter situations has been such a big factor. Obviously had the buzzer beater against San Diego, but it feels like once a game he makes a play at the buzzer, either a goal or a block, that helps Atlanta win games.
Well, let's take a look at some of these big moments from Ramsey.
This is week 1.
Salt Lake game going up huge to tie it at halftime.
Tony Moonga couldn't believe it. Shorter hair than last couple years, but I mean, here's the end of the San Diego game. The Growlers had all the momentum. They had dominated the fourth quarter to come back, and then Dean called game.
And a crazy play in traffic to catch it so clean.
Yeah, Max Gibson had a lot of arm, and I don't know how Dean hung on. He actually credited his brother. You know, his brother's the one that encouraged him to wear gloves this year. He's like, if you want to be a receiver, all the best NFL receivers wear gloves. You should wear gloves. He said, okay, I'll give it a try. And he said the gloves were a big part of how he thought he held on through the contact there at the end.
Well, it's been interesting. The Hustle coaching staff have really been drilling end of quarter situations because they've struggled with them so much the last couple of seasons. As big focus for their preseason training. And
yeah,
so far so good.
Each of the 5 training camps, Tuba said 20 to 30 reps just on end of quarter situations. And that's kind of what you got to do to be successful in the modern UFA. Kenny Taylor hunting the block, and he gets the layout on Savel Fernandez. Opportunity here for Atlanta to retake the lead.
What an individual play from Taylor.
Veteran Polk over to Holzmeyer, crossing over for the D point. And it's this type of situation why Tuba thinks Holzmeyer is the most dominant player in the league. We get the second Atlanta timeout here with just over a minute remaining on the clock. I'd be stunned if Holzmeyer's not back on the field after the timeout.
Yeah, you can't keep the timeout going into the second half, so perfect opportunity to use it, even though I think that line could score, especially with Holzmeyer running the show. But now you can put your O-line out there and try to retake this lead. And what a play from Kenny Taylor. My goodness, just a little floaty disc out into space. That's completed against most defenders in the league. You see Branch just kind of pops it out into space. Plenty of room to run onto. Look at this play from Taylor. My goodness.
Well, we had shots of both head coaches during that timeout. And one thing I really like about both Tuba Benson Jaja and Ben Feldman is how they empower their assistants. You know, Ben Feldman, he heaps so much praise on Max Longchamp, Carlos Lopez. Tuba has a great staff as well with Mark Poole, George Summers, Skylar Pitts, Abby Roberts, Eshawn Dave. Like there's a brain trust for both of these teams, and it's one of the reasons that they're among the best coached teams in the league. Call gives free 10 yards to Brock, stops the clock, restarts, 40 seconds to go in the half, and a missed throw that somehow works out. There's a wind-blown thunder stick in the end zone right now. Meanwhile, DeClerc lost his footing. Kind of a chaotic sequence, and Taylor drills it for Eckwurzel, who spikes it. It's an Atlanta break to give the Hustle the lead again.
Just some incredible defensive plays from both teams to set up breaks. This time it's Kenny Taylor for the Hustle. They call the timeout, bring the O-line in, and go to work.
Big first half for Carl Eckwurzel, affectionately nicknamed Carl Endzone. There are not any other characters in the league quite like Carl. He is one of a kind. And by the way, Toronto, who's been trailing throughout the second half at home against DC, just tied the game. They're midway through the fourth. That game's exclusively on WatchUFA.tv. If you've got a subscription already, check out the final moments of that game. If you don't have a subscription to Watch UFA TV, there has never been a better time to jump in on the action. The college season is over. All the best college players in so many different places around the league are coming into the UFA, and the regular season really heats up. And there's a block for Polk, and this could be another opportunity at the buzzer. Polk to McClamrock with 2. Look into the end zone, and Matt Rader casually says that's mine. But it's a 1-goal lead for Atlanta at the half.
All in all, Minnesota has to be happy with how the first half played out, but Atlanta seizing the momentum with the late break and starting to look more comfortable offensively and getting some big layout blocks, back-to-back wind chill offensive possessions blown up by a layout. And once again, just as the first quarter ended, the Hustle gave themselves an opportunity to score, but the wind chill playing good defense to prevent an extra goal.
So Matt Rader gets the block, but Atlanta wins the 2 end of quarters. Remember, Wilson Holiday scored with 15 seconds left in the first, and Eckwurzel scores with 24 seconds to go. So each team has 2 breaks in the first half. The 2 teams just a combined 4 of 19 on break chances, which is not great. I should say they're actually a combined 4 for 12. Still not great. But beautiful night for Frisbee as we check out the first half numbers. You see Atlanta 2 for 5. Minnesota, more break opportunities in the first half. They've had their chances.
Yeah, and really the difference in the game right now is that the Hustle scored last at both the end of the first and second. Now, Minnesota prevented anything getting worse by getting the blocks in the end zone at the end of both of those quarters, but ultimately the Hustle have that 1-goal edge, and Minnesota defensively, they're doing fine. They've got to get the offense moving.
Down on the field, our Grace Bulow is standing by with Atlanta Hustle head coach Tuba Benson Jaja. Hey, Grace.
O-line is debatably the best in the entire league. What do you think it is that makes them so successful?
I would say they trust each other, and they're having a fun and blast doing it. I mean, these guys train together. A lot of these guys know each other from college. And this year, a lot of them have said, hey, let's put our egos down and just let everybody do what they do best and give each other shine. And that's what they've been doing all season long.
Do you think it's affected your team to have Justin Burnett on the opposite sideline?
You've seen him over there hunting all day and coming up with big blocks. 100% yes. The dude's a baller. He was trained and forged in the Georgia sun and heat. He's a hustle player, so we knew he was going to bring it, and he's brought it. So we're going to make adjustments in the second half to hopefully kind of quiet him down a little bit.
Wise choice. Last question. Everyone's saying it's the Atlanta Hustle's year. What are you doing to make that a reality?
Honestly, we're just worrying about one game at a time. Right now, we got to focus on Minnesota. This last year was their year. They're the reigning championship team. They're playing it like it right now, like they've had us on our heels the whole game. So we're just worrying about the next half, and if we do that each game and grow each game, hopefully we're in a position to take home the championship at the end of the year.
Perfect. Love that. Back to the booth.
All right, Grice, thank you. Appreciate Tuba's time.
That's great.
Yep.
At the half here in Minnesota, it's the Hustle 9 and the Wind Chill 8, and the Dogs have some grabs to show to the fans as well. When we come back, we'll crack open a Friday night six-pack here on Friday Night Frisbee, presented by Pabst Light.
Stinson Services is the premier leader in storm damage restoration services. As a top-rated roofing and reconstruction contractor, we have over 20 years of experience and have expanded to multiple locations throughout the Midwest. You'll know from the first phone call that your project is in good hands with Stinson Services. We are licensed, insured, and dedicated to providing projects built to last. So visit Stinson Services today for a free storm damage inspection or give us a call at 952-933-4510.
Your body can. Prove you have what it takes. Thrive when the pressure's on. Explore more. Get up, step up, and keep up. Your body can conquer trails, stand atop podiums, see things you've never seen, make memories, break rules, and tackle every day head on. Because with Tria by your side, your body can do amazing things.
Joni and I came together a number of years ago. We share a common passion for helping others, and employment law is a way that we can make a difference in people's lives.
When people are violated, they should be able to expect that an organization is going to address them according to the policies. When people become afraid to make those reports about what's gone wrong, that's when the system's broken.
If you feel like there's something wrong in your workplace, reach out to an employment lawyer. Call 1-2-THOMS to talk about it.
Let's go chill!
It's Friday night in the Ultimate Frisbee Association, so let's crack open another six-pack. It's presented by Pabst Light, America's quality light beer. 6 storylines I'm looking forward to this weekend, starting with number 1, the game of the week, Atlanta at Chicago. It is a massive interdivisional matchup. The Hustle entering this weekend undefeated, obviously a tricky game at Minnesota on Friday, and the Chicago Union just 1-0. It's incredible that this is the Union's second game and it's the Hustle's 8th, but that's a quirk of the schedule, and this will be a big test for the Union. Obviously, the Hustle have proven their worth through the first 5 weeks of the season. 6 impressive wins, winning in different ways, doing it at the buzzer, doing it with pristine offense. Chicago has one ugly win in their bag already. That was a 16-11 win fest at the Wind Chill a couple weeks ago. Can Chicago handle a team of Atlanta's caliber? It's going to be a big one. 7 Eastern, 6 Central on WatchUFA.tv for the UFA Game of the Week. The Hustle and the Union, first ever meeting between these two interdivisional foes. Number 2 in the six-pack, another huge interdivisional showdown. Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern, it's the Carolina Flyers at the Philadelphia Phoenix. Not the first ever meeting. These two have played before. Philly has beaten Carolina before. A few years back, Carolina on the second day of a back-to-back after winning in D.C. on a Friday. They fell to the Flyers, or they fell to the Phoenix, I should say. A little confusing because the Flyers are a hockey team in Philly, but that's enough of that. The Flyers of the UFA are still winless, and that is a shocking dynamic for a team that not only made championship weekend and the championship game last year, but the Carolina Flyers are 0-4 and potentially in danger of missing the playoffs for the first time in the franchise's decade-long history. If they're going to make a late season push, they need to get some wins this weekend, and at Philly is a great place to start. Obviously, the Philly Phoenix are coming off their first loss of the year. They've been the big surprise of the first month of the season. This is a really intriguing game in a number of ways. Both these teams will badly need it in their respective playoff races. Really excited about Carolina at Philly, again 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. Number 3 in the six-pack. It's an East Division battle in Montreal and a tricky one for the DC Breeze. 6 p.m. Eastern opening pull. DC facing a Royale team that's coming off their first win, an impressive double overtime victory over the Empire. Now, the Breeze will be on the second day of a back-to-back after their Friday game at Toronto. Every game in the East Division right now feels super contentious and super meaningful in the playoff race. Looking forward to the Breeze and the Royale on Saturday night. Number 4 in the six-pack, Houston and San Diego. Interesting game. The Havoc obviously were impressive against the Colorado Summit. San Diego has been another kind of under-the-radar surprise in the league. Yes, 3 of their 4 wins have come against LA, but they also took down the Flyers on the road in overtime last week. So San Diego looks to back that up, and Houston looks to see if they can surprise on the road against the South Division's newer squads and maybe get back into the playoff mix. Houston, with that win over Colorado, feeling a little bit more optimistic perhaps about their chances. Number 5 in the six-pack, we take you to Sunday. 2 p.m. matinee, and this is a good one. The New York Empire at the Toronto Rush. Now, Toronto got tons of preseason hype, all these special international editions, and they've been impressive, but they haven't led to a win. Mark Lloyd expected to make his 2025 UFA debut this weekend, and the New York Empire get UMass sophomore Ethan Lehman on their active roster for the first time, coming off a strong college nationals with the University of Massachusetts. So that's Sunday at 2 p.m. New York at Toronto, and then Sunday at 4 p.m., number 6 on the six-pack, second game of Carolina's doubleheader weekend. They are at Pittsburgh. Again, feels like a must-win for the Flyers, considering the ramifications in the South Division right now. Pittsburgh coming off an embarrassing home loss where they just started miserably. They were down 15-2 this past weekend against Minnesota. If the Thunderbirds are going to remain anywhere close to the Central Division playoff mix, this feels like a really critical game for Pittsburgh to get against the Flyers team that's struggling and on the second day of a back-to-back. So much great action across the association this weekend. This has been another Friday Six-Pack presented by Pabst Light. Throw like a pro with a new Pro Ultimate Frisbee. Created with input from the sport's premier passers, the Pro Frisbee is specially designed to fly through the wind and maintain its edge. Experience the official Frisbee of the UFA and get yours at shopufa.com today. Back here at TCO Stadium, it's a 9-8 Atlanta lead, and we welcome you back to our fantastic perch here in the booth. Crazy finish going on right now. DC and Toronto, 1-goal game. Mark Lloyd just got a block.
Picture in picture, Evan.
Yeah, we got it right here. Watch UFA.tv to see the end of this one. Toronto called a timeout. All right, the game that we're watching here in Minnesota, also pretty enticing. What's the key in the second half for each squad?
Well, I think Atlanta needs to keep doing what they were doing at the end of that second quarter. It looked like their offense really settled down, started to just take what the defense was giving them a little bit more, and starting to dial up some pressure on the kinds of looks that Minnesota was looking for. For the wind chill, they have to feel pretty good overall. They're getting their chances. They just need to be a little sharper with their D-line offense. If they can punch in a couple more breaks, they can win this game.
Well, after the Minnesota Wind Chill won the championship last year, Ben Feldman did something that no UFA team has done before, creating championship rings. There's Tristan Vandy Mortel and Brandon Mattis. Check these out. Pretty swaggy for the reigning champs, huh?
Now all the other former champions are like, wait. Where's mine? They're calling the owners. These are beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Jostens was the partner. They're a Minnesota company, famous ring-making company for sports champions. And, Ben Feldman said it first started out as a joke, and then he learned how much they cost. He's like, no, we could make this happen. And, he put in a lot of money. I think guys opted in and committed to paying a little bit themselves. But, what a cool thing. What a cool memento for the hustle to have forever. I asked Ben Feldman how often he wears it. He says, not often, but I'll wear it at championship weekend next year, and he'll take it to the owners' meeting and, show that thing off.
You got to flex on him a little bit.
Brett Holzmeyer in this Atlanta offense in the first half was broken twice.
They're lucky it wasn't more than that.
They really are. Cam Lacey doing a nice job staying with Taylor. Downfield, a floater for Eckwurzel. Miller to Brock. The league's all-time leading goal scorer with a pretty nice toss into the end zone. Adam Miller has another Atlanta goal. And this matches the Hustle's largest lead. They jumped out to a 3-1 advantage in the opening minutes. Then three straight goals for Minnesota gave them the lead. We've kind of back and forth ever since, but now Atlanta up by 2 once again.
A really nice play from Cam Brock, who is not usually somebody throwing a lot of assists. That's just his third of the season. But what's working well is that they're bringing him back into the reset space a little bit more often, and it's just letting things flow more easily because he's able to kind of operate back there. He's not like a tremendously talented thrower, but he can get the job done and not throw turnovers. And that's been one of the things that they've changed. We've had a little bit less of a focus on the pure handlers because they were getting bottled up with double teams and things like that in the first half.
Some traffic here for Brian Vinoka to contend with, and he uses the hammer to get it out of trouble. Krennic with a laser that McClamrock was hunting. Klain floats it downfield to a wide open Leo Savell Fernandez for the Minnesota score.
Well, it's worth noting the flag here in the stadium is no longer whipping in the wind. So we may see smoother offense from both teams here in the second half.
That's probably advantage Atlanta, don't you think?
Absolutely. They want to play a crisp, clean game. Really nice here from the wind chill.
By the way, those who are watching on watchufa.tv already know the DC Breeze got the 1-goal win. Miles Grovic for the DCD, a block at the buzzer. Breeze win it over the Rush 21-20. And Toronto, despite all the big names, despite the fact they've been very competitive in every game they've played, are a demoralizing 0-4 heading into their Sunday matchup against New York. That's a low throw. Brock, did he keep it up? Officials say it's up. Ben Feldman can't believe it. He's racing down the line to bark at the sideline referee. We'll take another look after the play. It was very, very close.
I thought it hit the ground first. We'll have to see in the replay.
Austin Taylor shoots it. Brett Holzmeyer accelerates away from Pollard. On the goal line, Scuber. Wilson Holiday is there. Well, story of this point was whether or not the disc hit the ground on this catch early on in the backfield.
It would have been a short field opportunity for a break for Minnesota to tie the game at 10. Instead, it's back to an Atlanta 2-goal lead as we see the deep shot. And here it is. Oh boy, that was very close.
Brock certainly sold it well.
I mean, the question is, did he squeeze it before it touched the turf? I'm gonna try to get one more look at this. Wilson Holiday continuing to have a really nice game for the Atlanta offense. Here it is one more time. Does this find the ground before Brock squeezes it? I think that the back trailing edge of the disc hit the ground before Brock had it. It should have been a turnover. Bad break for the wind chill.
They're down by 2. Klain to Rader with Polk in his pocket. Scuber downfield for Larson. And a whistle away from the Frisbee. Not totally clear. No official that I've seen has made a clear signal.
Still confusion.
Yeah.
Officials have struggled a little bit tonight.
Presumably a pick downfield. Now Larson retreats 10 yards and then crossfield hammers for his college teammate Brandt. By the way, the action continues on Watch UFA TV. Battle in the West. Oakland, Colorado is underway. Spiders trying to stay undefeated. Quinn Snyder can't quite get there.
It's a great effort from Snyder, and he had the space. That throw just left him wanting. A little too much blade on this one from Brandt.
Against the double team, it's McClamrock. And he sneaks it through to Polk. They call it travel? Yeah, they signaled a travel. So the task gets even tougher here. And a drop from Fernandez. Huge play in the game. Gives Minnesota the disc on the goal line, and they're just like that, back within 1. Charlie, I know in the second half you want to save your timeouts for the fourth quarter, but that was a tough situation for the Hustle D-line O to try and work their way out of.
It's true, but they got the throw off. he opened the window and got the throw through, and they're not whistling any of the contact on the mark there, but they do whistle to travel. Really tough. Look at this contact. I mean, if you're not gonna call the contact, you really shouldn't be calling this travel. You can see him looking to the refs, and he doesn't even travel in the moment when he makes the throw. I do not understand the decisions there from the referees. But ultimately, very short field for the wind chill and a simple dinker into the end zone to get back within one.
Brandt to Klein for the score. 1-goal game here in the Twin Cities. This Minnesota pull is going to sail out the back. Atlanta still without Sean Knoll, who went down with what looked like a shoulder injury late in the first half. So the O-line here consists of Taylor, Austin Knabb, Flick, Holzmeyer, Miller, Brock, and Eckwurzel. Alec Wilson-Holiday, the odd man out for this O-point. Flick downfield, Holzmeyer reels it in. Brock looking for another assist, but he got greedy. And it's a great defensive play from Colin Berry.
And Berry saw that space and was all over it. This cannot be a backhand. This has to be a break forehand if you're going to throw it at all. An easy block, a great play by Berry, but for a defender of his caliber, that's a straightforward play with the disc inside to the receiver.
Vanny Mortel with a blade to get it off the line for the former Phoenix. Pollard looking for Burnett, and Atlanta sideline screaming that it was down. Meanwhile, Burnett's chucking downfield, and then we get a whistle.
It clearly looked like he dropped it. And then he picked it up off the turf. So now the referees coming together.
They're going to call it an incomplete pass and bring it back to the spot.
And Pollard can't believe it. But look, it clearly completely falls to the ground. It wasn't even really all that close.
That's a bad look for Justin Burnett to drop the disc and then pick it up and sell it. Like, we're still a sport of integrity. You drop the disc, don't fake it.
Yeah, but I mean, you could say the same thing perhaps about Cam Brock a couple of plays ago.
You
Maybe
could,
not
but that was
obvious.
closer. He might have.
It was closer.
I mean, there's no way Justin Burnett thought he caught that Frisbee. Burnett sailing for the block. He can't get there. I mean, look, I'm a huge Justin Burnett fan. That's a rough look. Miller zips it downfield for McClamrock. Looking back for Miller. He's having another great night for the hustle. Topsy-turvy point. Atlanta able to punch it in.
This has been a wild game. We've had a lot of big calls. We've had a lot of big layout blocks. Clunkiest offensive performance of the season for the undefeated Atlanta Hustle. And you're completely right, Evan. I mean, this is the kind of thing that you're walking the other direction. He doesn't think that he caught that. He knows he dropped it. But both teams trying to get away with some stuff in this one. And the refs have sometimes let them do so. And then Adam Miller creating some space again. He has been huge for them tonight.
Before the game, Charlie, I was chatting with Christian Olsen, who's injured, unable to play. I asked him, if you accept the premise that Holzmeyer's the #1 dominant guy on the O-line, who's the second most important guy on this Atlanta offense? And it's probably one of the three guys, either Adam Miller, Hayden Austin Knabb, or Austin Taylor. And he didn't give me a great answer, as I didn't expect him to, because, they're all his teammates, as that hammer floats for a long time, and it's an easy block for Kenny Taylor. Quick timeout with the disc picked up in the middle of the field from Tuba Benson-Jaja. And we'll see this hustle offense. I mean, last game, Adam Miller was, I think, 49 for 49 and just absolutely dominant for the Hustle. Earned a spot on the Week 5 honor roll. And he is growing into an even bigger role, seemingly quarter by quarter.
Oh, and he's played the University of Georgia in an offense where he was one of the main focal points. So he knows what it's like to play high-level reps as the offense and Cam Brock get ready to go and try to go up by 3, be their largest lead of the game. Kenny Taylor with another block. This one much easier than the last.
And just the type of throw that you're not going to get away with more often than not. That hammer that floats for a really long time toward the middle of the field. Good luck. Austin Taylor initiates out of the timeout. Hayden Austin Nab comes underneath. Centers to his teammate Flick in the middle. And back to Taylor. Basically handler dominator right now between those three. And now Flick going up the line, and Taylor lost it out of bounds on the throw. Burnett picks up for Minnesota. Does Ben Feldman think about a timeout now, or does he try to tire out this Hustle O-line? This is an O point for Minnesota. So they need to march it down to try to hold and get back within 1. This would be a quick march. Vanny Mortel with a bomb. Hitting Burnett in stride, and my goodness. Burnett just gives it away on the goal line.
What was that? I think he was just trying to hit the reset, but he throws this so hard. I really don't understand.
At best, miscommunication. At worst, just a flub completely. Holzmeyer coming under. Quick reset. Austin Nab. Had some long points tonight, Charlie, and this is another one. And Atlanta turns it over again.
The wind is non-existent. That is not the story.
A couple bewildering turnovers. You know, Austin Taylor throwing it out of bounds, and Burnett giving it away on the goal line. Vanny Mortel has become such a valuable guy for this wind chill team, shepherding the team down for breaks. Pollard back for Vanny Mortel. Noah Hansen helped coach the Carleton men to a national championship 4 days ago out in Washington State. Hands calm. Timeout was called from the sideline before Hanscom could let go of the throw.
Wow, that's all that time marching down the field and then not confident in that D-line finishing this O-point off. It feels like a tough spot to use a timeout, but maybe he was feeling the stall count getting too high.
And I didn't want to risk another stall. So this is a really important moment for Minnesota's offense. Obviously, great field position. This should be clockwork red zone scoring time for the wind chill, but I mean, a point that's lasted over 3 minutes already.
Yeah, I mean, this is must-score spot for Minnesota. And you also want to score quickly if possible because it gives you an opportunity to get the last score at the end of the quarter potentially with about 90 seconds left in this third quarter.
Double team on the mark. Klain back to Brandt. Minnesota going in the wrong direction right now. Here's Rader, chased by Ramsey. Scuba into a double team, and Larson gets there and then throws the score. 3 minutes and 44 seconds off the clock on that point. It's a wind chill hold and a 1-goal game again.
Crazy point. How about the Vandemortel deep shot to Burnett earlier, and then just inexplicable turnover. No, he threw it so hard, you can't even say it just caught on his finger as he threw it. Then
the hustle from Miller.
You love to see that.
Preventing the disc from rolling the other way.
After a couple more turnovers, Minnesota calls the timeout. Each team with 1 timeout left here in the game. And now the Minnesota wind chill need to get the crowd into this game. That can be the X factor.
Clock ticks under a minute to play here in this third quarter. First ever meeting between Minnesota and Atlanta. Hustle. Looking to get to 7-0. Holzmeyer shooting it, and it floats too far for Alec Wilson-Holiday. He stutter-stepped to set it up, and he didn't just keep going to get to the spot.
Ever so slight hesitation on his route. And you see right there, he kind of was trying to get a read on where the disc was going to go.
Huck the other way. Bergmeyer shooting it. Contact the other end. It's deflected by Holzmeyer and caught by an incredible pitting Matthew Johnson. The crowd's back into it now. 12 all.
Woo-hoo! Why don't you catch your blocks? You got to catch your Ds. That is why. Trying to knock it to the ground. It sits in the air.
Heroic play from Matthew Johnson, 22-year-old, or 23-year-old, I should say, out of Iowa State.
And this is what you can do. You can put pressure on defense by putting up these shots. That's a foul. They didn't call it. Knocked away, not caught, and then the laying out. Johnson with the save, and then it's easy money into the end zone for the break. We're all tied up. 13 seconds left here in the third.
First goal of the night, 5th of the season for Gabe Yacht, one of Ben's younger brothers. Ben, the 2-time MVP with the New York Empire, started in the UFA, of course, as a member of the Wind Chill. All right, Minnesota's going to receive to start the fourth. Well, they have a chance to take the lead. Dean Ramsey is out there, by the way. Holzmeyer's going to launch length of the field in Ramsey's direction, shy of the end zone. Rader intercepts, going the other way. This will count. And now the whistle's blowing. They're going to wave it off, and Holzmeyer eats it up. I thought Rader got that off. Alas, the Wind Chill are in the game as we take the turn into the fourth.
Another crazy quarter. The Atlanta Hustle offense still not clicking. And Minnesota coming up with some huge moments. Brett Holzmeyer didn't get enough air under this one. Easy interception for Rader, who tried to send it the other way, but the clock expired before he let it go. And so we head to the fourth. All tied up.
Yes, indeed.
12-12 in the Twin Cities.
Another classic brewing here on Friday Night Frisbee in the Twin Cities. 12-12 with 12 minutes left in regulation.
Are you kidding me? Goes up above everyone!
Ready to meet the latest addition to the family? The money you saved us with auto owners helped make it all possible. It really is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Excuse me?
Third best thing.
Third best thing.
Auto Owners offers discounts for life, home, car, and business insurance because they think the more you protect, the more you should save. That's simple human sense.
Another great Friday night here at TCO Stadium. 2 weeks ago in Boston, we saw the Empire come back late in regulation against the Glory and force overtime. Last week out in Salt Lake City, a crazy 6-goal comeback and a 1-goal win for the Shred against the Cascades. And tonight, late in that third quarter, it felt like the Hustle were on the verge of a 3-goal lead, and yet the Wind Chill have the disc and a chance to go back on top as we start the fourth. Evan Lepler, Charlie Eisenhood, our entire Friday night Frisbee crew with you from TCO Stadium in the Twin Cities. Can Minnesota hold under pressure? Zamel Fernandez lays out to keep it alive. Klain rips it. Beautiful toss. Krennic on the doorstep and into the end zone for the Wind Chill score. Minnesota retakes the lead.
Now all the pressure is on Atlanta down the stretch. They're going to have to get a break to win this game. And a really nice pass by Klain to set this up, and then Krennic, the full commit, falling to the ground as he sends the assist into the end zone. Now, we've talked about the struggles of this Minnesota O-line this season. But what we haven't talked about is that this Atlanta defensive unit hasn't been great statistically. Now, we've seen some really nice individual plays, particularly from Kenny Taylor. But overall, a lot of the mistakes seem like they have been Minnesota's own doing. Something to keep an eye on down the stretch.
Adam Miller's going deep. Nice break of the mark from Austin Taylor to get it to Holzmeyer near the sideline, and he wraps it around the mark of Krapfel. Double team comes on Miller, and then it's off Holzmeyer's hand in the backfield. Lacey picks up and launches, and it's a turnover.
You just can't send that throw. You cannot send that throw. Holzmeyer is baiting that choice, and the only way to get it there is to throw it really hard and super precisely, and he put it into the ground.
Maybe with 4 minutes left, Ben Feldman uses a timeout there, but with 10.5 minutes to go, you want to save it, and you feel like your D-line's in a pretty good position.
If he hadn't burned the timeout at the end of the third, I think he calls that one right there.
Near the sideline again for Holzmeyer. Taylor's going deep. To Austin Nab under. Here comes Brock. Atlanta matriculating down the field. Under 10 minutes to go in regulation. Believe this is the first time the Hustle have trailed in a fourth quarter so far this season. Taylor on the doorstep. Austin Nab beats Burnett on this one. And they wave at each other. And we'll see if they get a call.
But the refs need to know the context here.
I mean, they've been yapping at each other all game long.
And they're former teammates. They're friends. There's no reason to call a penalty here. I understand that in a different context, perhaps, but it seems like maybe they're waving this off. Hard to say from up here.
I see the official writing it down.
Okay. Maybe they call it double tech, and
That's cute. Normal pulling location, so if they did call text, they were offsetting. We got a whistle on the pull.
Austin Taylor now leading the game in throwing yards, 375. Not sure what this whistle is for.
Maybe the official didn't signal readiness. Ben Feldman seeking an explanation. So is Tuba Benson-Jaja for that matter. Both coaches are perplexed as to what just happened. So are we. And they're going to call a delay of game on Atlanta for presumably throwing the pull before the official signaled readiness. Love the kicks that Tuba's got on tonight, by the way.
And the hat.
He always brings the style. So 10-yard penalty. So they're pulling from 10 yards outside the end zone instead of 20. Ramsey's pull is a pretty good one. Savell Fernandez with a good gaining centering pass to Brandt. 9 minutes left in regulation. Another whistle. Contact downfield against Atlanta. Clock continues to tick. Interesting thing about tonight, Charlie, is yes, the game counts in the standings, and it's a win for one team and a loss for another. Klain makes a leaping catch and greeted by a double team. Both these teams are in excellent playoff position in their respective division. But both coaches have talked about learning from going against another top-tier opponent, the type of team that you might see at championship weekend. And last year, Minnesota had 3 home losses during the regular season, but they learned from them. And without those losses, if they had gone through the regular season 11-1 or 12-0 last year, Ben Feldman doesn't think his team would have been ready for championship weekend.
And we've heard it time and time again. It doesn't mean that teams can't go undefeated and dominate the league. We've seen the Empire do it. But sometimes you have to have some adversity. You have to have some things to work on. And if Atlanta loses tonight, they're certainly going to get that wake-up call. Brian Vanutka getting the goal there.
And particularly with a tough turnaround, Chicago awaiting tomorrow.
Yeah, no Holzmeyer in the lineup.
No Holzmeyer for the hustle tomorrow night. James Pollard preparing to pull with 8 minutes to go. Atlanta has led by as many as 2. Minnesota, their largest lead of the night, has been 1. Taylor looking for an option, and he just beats the stall, getting it to Austin Knabb in the backfield. Here's Wilson Holiday. Justin Burnett again. Intercepts the pass from Miller. Shoots it deep for DeClercq. Minnesota doubles their lead. It's been an up and down night for Justin Burnett. But he comes through here in the 4th with the D and the dime. Winchell by 2.
Dylan DeClercq is so fired up after that one. And why not? He saw the turnover happen and he immediately took off deep. A terrible sequence here from Miller. Throws into a very attackable lane for Burnett. Doesn't get back on defense, and DeClercq is gone the other direction, sliding in for the go-ahead break to go up by 2. Oh my goodness. The Winchell are in control with 7 minutes and 20 seconds to go.
What a turnaround. It was 12-10, that 3-minute and 44-second point. It was 11-10 going into that point, and then the Hustle scored to go up 12-10. Had a bunch of chances to go up by 3. It's a 5-1 Minnesota run spanning the quarters. And now the Hustle on the ropes a little bit. Another tricky situation that the wind chill create defensively for Miller to work his way out of. Stumbling catch for Holzmeyer. Here's Eckwurzel. Quick reset, Miller. Throughout this whole point, no one's really been cutting into the deep space, Charlie. Hustle trying to take the secure choices, the swings and the unders.
Yeah, they've really turned off the deep game with their O-line after the early stages of this game where they had a lot of turnovers.
Just 3 for 9 on their Hucks tonight. Now in the red zone, where they're 9 for 12. Taylor. Oh, that just narrowly evaded the outstretched arms of Cam Lacey. Miller brings the Hustle back within 1, 5:50 to go.
That's a great find from Taylor, though, because Lacey was face guarding and that there was no one else in that space. So he's able to just put that up, and by the time Lacey gets an eye on the disc, it's too late. It's another goal for Miller. He's got 5 on the night now, over 400 yards of offense, but if they lose this game, he's going to be thinking about that sequence on the previous point. Not all of the scores that he's been doing. Still thinking about it right now.
All right, now Minnesota on offense with a 1-goal lead. All the wind chill need to do is hold, but an incredible layup play. That's Tanner Robinson poaching off the weak side handler and full extension into the lane. Incredible block from Robinson. And it's bookends for Tanner Robinson, and we are tied as the Hustle break in less than 30 seconds on that play.
Kenny Taylor with the assist, but oh wow, Tanner Robinson. Maybe the block of the game. Look at this, out of nowhere. Nobody sees him coming. He feels the space and lays out early and then gets into the end zone for the bookends to get this game back level. Some unreal defense on individual plays tonight.
That is one of the things about this Atlanta team. Guys like Tanner Robinson, who are not the guys you think about when you start talking about the Hustle. But he's been playing in the league since 2021. Experienced guy. And he's made some big plays and big moments throughout his career. How will this wind chill O-line respond? Another tight window throw, and it's a very fortuitous catch for Vinoka, who shoots it deep near the sideline. Snyder is inbounds, and he's in the end zone. That had conservation of greatness written all over it for Vinoka, but greatness relentless for Bevon.
Snyder with his 4th goal. He's a +5 in this game, no turnovers. But the presence of mind, not only to turn around and make this play, but immediately stand up and fire a same 16th Huck up the sideline.
Well said.
And Snyder is there.
Late stages, players getting a chance to catch their breath after the quick hold. It's winning time for one of these teams here in Minnesota. Oh my, there's an injury behind the play. James Pollard, I believe, threw that pole and then never made it down the field unless they were trying some sort of snake in the grass something. But he's down and he's coming out right now. I didn't catch what happened to Pollard, did you?
I did not see that. I was looking down at the other end.
Matthew Johnson jogging onto the field. We'll take a look and see if we have the angle of the pull to show you and try to, presumably we're following the disc. I don't know if we'd catch Pollard. That's certainly a matter of concern.
Take a look right here. And I think he was immediately hurt off the pull.
Crazy sequence as we're in the replay. Reset deflected off Austin Taylor's hands, and it was caught by Hayden Austin Knabb. A very fortuitous ricochet. Flick feeds it to Miller, right back to Flick. Wilson Holiday throws it away. Was just thinking, these have to be the most pressure-packed moments of Alec Wilson Holiday's ultimate career. After several seasons with Dallas where there weren't many games or crowds or pressure-packed moments like this. Would have been a foul on that throw if it wasn't caught. Ben Feldman's going to use his final timeout. Clock stops with 3:48 remaining. And the Wind Chill have the disc and a 1-goal lead.
Didn't love the first time out they used in the second half, but this is exactly how to use the second one. You may not get another opportunity to get a break, and to go up by 2 with under 4 to play puts you in the driver's seat again.
When we were in the replay of the Pollard injury, here's what happened in the backfield. This disc is going to tick off Taylor's hands right to Austin Knabb.
Fortunate it wasn't a Callahan.
Already saw one of those tonight from James Pollard.
Credit to this Wind Chill defense. They have made resets a nightmare for Atlanta tonight. It's where they've generated a lot of pressure. They've gotten a stall. It has been tough sledding.
Brett Holzmeyer's out there defensively for Atlanta. Klane's going to pick up for the Wind Chill. Larson comes from the front of the stack, guarded by Bradley St. Johns. It's a nice break from Larson to Bevon. Continued for Krennic. At this stage of the game, Charlie, if you're Atlanta defensively, you need to get a block one way or another. We saw Robinson get one before, but then the Wilson Holiday giveaway. It's a break chance for the Wind Chill, and if they get the break here with less than 3 minutes to go, you got to really like their odds. Vanoka wide open. St. Johns comes with a surprise double team, and Bevon calmly scoobers over it. Downfield, it's Brandt. And then crossfield, Krennic wide open. Wind Chill by 2.
What a dot from Will Brandt. The Wind Chill in control at home against the league's best team.
Just like we all expected. Or not.
What a wild night it's been.
How surprised are you by what we've seen from Minnesota tonight, and what have they shown you down the stretch here?
Well, obviously, their offense has played significantly better than it did in that Chicago game, as Will Brandt deservedly fired up after taking a challenging crossfield flick shot. But I think it's the fact that they have just gummed up this Atlanta offense. But can I say I'm surprised about that? We have watched these Central Division teams give great offenses from out of the division tons of trouble over the years in the UFA. Another beautiful pull.
A 2-goal deficit, and a lot of green in front of them as they try to march it down the field with under 2.5 to play. Just might have been deflected on the release by Lacey, the mark, but it got to Miller anyway. Big swing from Brock to Flick. Time's becoming a factor. Atlanta doesn't just need to score, but they need to score pretty quick. And their Hucks, as we said, have not been on point tonight. Double comes. Taylor throws a shoulder into Bergmeyer, and they're going to call it against Taylor. Clock ticking as he marches off the 10.
They don't have time to wait around here.
"90 seconds away from the Hustle's first loss of the season if they can't score at least twice in the next minute plus." A drop from Flick.
Minnesota can just run this clock out.
Feels like the nail in the coffin, doesn't it?
They probably only need to throw about 10 passes here.
Double team on the mark. Holzmeyer and Brock. They get this blade, and it's deflected, and Barry goes down, and Atlanta's got possession again.
They have to hurry.
Time is of the essence for sure. Eckwurzel. He didn't look to the end zone, but maybe Flick will. Hustle do not have time for this. Austin Knabb recognizes it, but he underthrew his man Brock in the end zone. Lacey swats it down, and that should just about do it, barring a Callahan here. Of course, we saw Callahan earlier tonight.
Oh, no.
Dangerous bid from Austin Knabb.
Oh,
Bergmeyer pops back up.
I mean, you could throw him out of the game for
You
that. I know there's
absolutely
only
could.
15 seconds left, and this game's basically decided, but that is not an acceptable play. That is so bad. And Austin Knabb's
He knew it immediately.
player, and he knew, of course he did. He didn't mean to take the player out like that, but that is a reckless bid.
I don't know if he was thrown out or Tuba just took him out. But with 14 seconds to go, the Minnesota Wind Chill will finally get to celebrate a victory at this sparkling facility here in the Twin Cities. Crossfield hammer to Lacey. Wind Chill were down 12-10 late in the third. They close the game on a 7-3 run, and they'll celebrate a victory here at TCO Stadium. 17-15 over previously undefeated Atlanta. What a game.
An incredible night for the Wind Chill and their coaching staff. They had the game plan to take Atlanta out of its rhythm, and the Hustle never found it. Brett Holzmeyer finishes with just 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 turnovers. And Minnesota taking that 5-1 run through the end of the third quarter into the fourth to take control of this game. And some late heroics to seal it. And a tremendous win for the defending champs.
And it's a win that they needed. I mean, I said on the pod the other day that they needed to be competitive in this game. They certainly were. And to get this win, it's a reminder that they are the champs and that they are going to be a force to be reckoned with going forward. This makes you forget the Chicago game, because to beat this Hustle squad in front of these fans after falling behind, it sends a message.
And it certainly washes the bad taste of that Chicago game out of their mouth. And the wind chill can go into future matchups with the Union with a lot more confidence after the way they played tonight. You know, the wind chill out-hustled the hustle in many ways, both literally and figuratively. They go 6 for 8 on hucks tonight. Atlanta just 3 for 9, despite coming in as the league's best hucking team. Fewest turnovers in the league coming into the night for the Atlanta Hustle. They finished with 19 turnovers. And a lot of that is credit to what the wind chill were able to do on defense.
And I'd say the wind was maybe 25% of those 19 turns. The wind chill were the other 75%.
That sounds about right. Early in this game, there were definitely some weird wind-driven turnovers, but ultimately, Justin Burnett and some of the other playmakers, and really just the scheme, worked so well for the wind chill.
Five breaks for the chill, only 3 for the hustle.
And 15 chances.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to told you before the game that Minnesota's offense would only be broken 3 times, you probably would think they got a pretty good chance to win.
Certainly. And both teams leaving some goals on the field in the red zone. I thought Atlanta played pretty good defense tonight overall, but they were just not clean enough on offense to win this game. And now they got to go into the second game of back-to-back against the top team in the Central right now in Chicago. And they're not going to have their talisman, Brett Holzmeyer. It could be a sobering road trip.
Yeah, they could go from 6-0 to 6-2 pretty quick, and the Austin Soul could be sitting pretty in first place. All right, you got to imagine this win means a whole heck of a lot to Justin Burnett, former Atlanta Hustle standout, now playing with Minnesota. Several big plays for Burnett. He is the Pabst Light player of the game, and he is standing by down on the field with grace.
Thanks, Evan. Justin, what a game. How did it feel to be playing your old team?
It felt great. It felt awesome, you know, seeing Tuba and the guys. A lot of trash talk, a lot of competitiveness, but I knew I was going to give my best game to them. I knew they were going to bring their best game to us, but at the end of the day, the best team won, so that's all it is.
Okay. The game against Chicago versus the game tonight, it looked like 2 entirely different teams. What was the shift?
Confidence and chemistry. That's all it was. You know, that Chicago game was our first O-line and D-line's first time putting it all together in front of the fans at home. And we had a lot of kinks we needed to work out. We went to Philly, we worked it out, beat them convincingly, and then we came here and proved that it wasn't just a mediocre team. It was our team being the best.
Yeah. Okay, that was great. And not to make you a villain, but the one throw that you may have dropped, what was your thought behind just picking that up and chucking it?
Hey, the refs got to make the call there. You know, I think there was a really bad throw that Hayden had that hit the ground and they didn't call anything. You know, so my thought process there is it's a ref game. You know, they got to call it. I think, you know, I had it off my foot, but if that's not the case, you know, that's whatever.
Totally fair. Yeah. All right, last question. Yeah. What do you think it's going to take to get Minnesota back to Champ Weekend?
Exactly what you saw on the field today. That and more. I think we showed you the product. I think we showed we can beat the consensus at the time #1 team in the division, and not in the division, but in the UFA. So expect more of the same. And my mantra is always more. We got more than what we showed tonight, and you're going to see it coming.
Love it. All right, you want to tip us off for the weekend?
Absolutely.
Yes. All right, back to the booth.
The Pabst Light player of the game, Justin Burnett of the Minnesota Wind Chill. It's still a little strange to say when you think about he born and bred in Atlanta, played college ultimate at Emory, won the Callahan, you know, broke out in the UFA with the hustle, but now he's in grad school in the Midwest. Ben Feldman got him under contract, and he certainly adds a different dynamic to the Wind Chill D-line that they needed against his old team tonight.
He came up with some absolutely massive plays tonight, finishes with 3 blocks. Look, at the end of the day, this is a team win for the Wind Chill, but some heroics from Burnett, for Pollard. Great play from DeClercq down the stretch. Quinn Snyder, no turnovers, 5 goals. just a really impressive overall performance from the wind chill.
And Minnesota gets to enjoy this victory. They are back in action at Seafoam Stadium in St. Paul a week from tomorrow against Pittsburgh, a team that they just dominated on the road last week. Ben Feldman has a defending championship squad that after tonight certainly feels right back in the mix to potentially compete for a title. It always helps to have some good luck. But yeah, that was the type of hustle play there, Charlie, that you mentioned, Matthew Johnson. And then that was a dagger as well, Burnett to DeClercq after the block. What a ball game tonight as Minnesota improves to 3-1 and Atlanta falls from the ranks of the unbeaten. There's only 4 more remaining undefeated teams in the league. We'll see if any more drop over the course of the rest of the weekend. We thank you for being with us for Friday Night Frisbee, presented by Pabst Light. For Charlie Eisenhood and Grace Bulow and the rest of our tremendous production crew, I'm Evan Lepler saying so long from the Twin Cities. Minnesota over Atlanta, 17-15. Enjoy the rest of the weekend in the UFA on WatchUFA.tv. Friday Night Frisbee next week, New York, D.C. We'll see you next Friday from our nation's capital.